I just clicked. I just scrolled. I just landed here. But angels often move through ordinary moments. Sometimes heaven doesn't shout. It arranges. And right now, angels are whispering that your heart has been brought to a crossroads, not to scare you, but to wake you up gently, because there is a sacred urgency in the air, not panic, not pressure, just that quiet, holy tension that happens when two destinies are brushing against each other and something real is trying to come alive. Angels say your soulmate needs you now, not later, not when it feels easier, not when you feel perfectly prepared. And I know that word now can trigger resistance, because part of you wants to be safe. Part of you wants to make sure you won't be misunderstood. Part of you wants to wait until everything looks clear from the outside. But angels are saying this is not about comfort. This is about presence, not perfection, presence. Somewhere, your person is standing at a breaking point, not the kind that means they are weak, the kind that means they can't pretend anymore, the kind that happens when pride stops working, when silence stops protecting, when the walls they built to survive start feeling heavier than the truth they're holding back. And they're not praying loud prayers. They're praying those private prayers that live in the middle of the night, the ones whispered through a tight throat, the ones you don't post, the ones you don't brag about, the ones soaked with tears you wipe away quickly because you don't want anyone to know how much you feel. Angels say your soulmate is asking God one question over and over. Do they still care? Do they still hear me? If I reach out, will they show up? And I want you to feel how tender that is, because this isn't a person asking for applause. This isn't a person asking to be entertained. This is someone asking if love is still safe in your direction, if your heart still has room, if your spirit will respond. And dear child, I need you to understand something. Heaven is not watching you to judge you. Heaven is watching you to support you. But what you choose in a moment like this matters, because timing is a living thing. Timing is fragile. Not fragile like it breaks forever, but fragile like a window that opens and closes, not as punishment, just as consequence. Not because God is cruel, because God honors free will. Angels say your soulmate is not asking you to fix them. They're not asking you to carry them. They're not asking you to save them from themselves. They are asking you to stand with them, to be real with them, to remind them they are not alone in the season they're walking through. And if I'm being honest, that kind of request touches something deep, because it's not dramatic, it's sacred. You felt the pull, haven't you? The sudden thoughts about them that come out of nowhere, the dreams that feel too specific to be random, the heaviness in your chest you couldn't explain, the way their name crosses your mind when you're doing something completely unrelated, and you try to reason it away. You try to label it memory, habit, attachment, coincidence. But angels say it wasn't imagination. It was alignment. It was your spirit picking up a signal your mind couldn't translate. Right now, your soulmate is facing something that feels bigger than them. A decision, a confession, a turning point. They are standing between fear and truth, between hiding and honesty, between retreat and revelation. And angels say, your presence is the difference, not because you control their life, but because your response carries meaning. Your response becomes a mirror. Your response becomes a confirmation. Your response becomes the safety net that tells them, if I step forward, I won't fall alone. Now listen carefully, dear child, because this is where most people misunderstand spiritual timing. God is not rushing you. God is positioning you. There is a difference. Rushing is panic. Positioning is alignment. And angels say this is not the season for silence. This is the season for courage. Courage doesn't mean you have to arrive with a perfect speech. It doesn't mean you have to explain your entire heart in one message. It doesn't mean you need to promise what you cannot guarantee. Courage means I choose to be present. I choose to be honest where I stand. I choose to respond instead of disappearing. Because angels say silence is also a message. And right now, if you stay silent, silence will sound like confusion to them. Silence will sound like uncertainty. Silence will feel like rejection, even if you didn't mean it that way. And you might say, but I don't want to lead them on. And angels would answer, honesty doesn't lead someone on. Silence often does, because silence leaves people writing stories in their own mind. And fear is a talented storyteller. Your soulmate has already made a decision in their heart. They want you, they choose you, but fear has slowed their steps. Fear of rejection, fear of being embarrassed, fear of being vulnerable and not being met, fear of misreading divine timing and looking foolish, fear of offering a heart that has already been wounded before. And this fear doesn't mean they don't love you. It means they love you enough to be afraid of losing you. Angels say your response becomes confirmation the way God reassured Gideon. Not because you are God, but because God often answers prayers through people. And right now, you are one of the ways God is answering their prayer. Not with force, not with pressure, with presence. You may feel unprepared. You may feel unsure. You may even feel irritated by how big this feels. But angels say heaven doesn't only call the ready. Heaven readies the called. And the next step is rarely the whole road. It's the lamp to your feet, not the floodlight for your future. So let me speak to the part of you that overthinks. Overthinking is not always wisdom. Sometimes it's fear dressed up as intelligence. It's the mind trying to control outcomes, so the heart doesn't have to risk anything. And angels say control is the enemy of trust. God does not need you to manage the ending. God is asking you to honor the moment. Your soulmate doesn't need a grand gesture. They need reassurance. They need safety. They need to know their honesty won't be punished, that their vulnerability won't be mocked, that their effort won't be wasted. And you provide that safety not by being perfect, but by being present. A gentle check-in, a simple, how are you really? A small sign that says, I'm here. And angels say small obedience can carry big impact. There's something else, dear child. Your soulmate feels exposed right now, not weak, seen. They've reached the point where hiding hurts more than truth, where pretending costs more than honesty, where the armor they wear, being strong, being unbothered, being distant, has become heavy. And angels say armor gets heavy when worn too long. They are ready to lay it down, but only if they know they are safe. And this is where I speak gently to you. You also might be afraid. You might be afraid of opening a door you're not ready to walk through. You might be afraid that if you respond, You'll be expected to carry everything. You might be afraid of being pulled into emotions you worked hard to manage. You might be afraid of losing yourself. But angels say opening a door is not the same as running through it. Responding is not the same as surrendering your boundaries. Presence is not the same as self-sacrifice. God is not asking you to chase. God is asking you to answer. And answering does not require you to abandon yourself. It requires you to show up as your true self. This is not about dependency. This is about partnership. Two hearts learning how to meet without power games. Two journeys learning how to align without erasing each other. Two souls choosing courage over confusion. Angels say this moment was delayed before, not denied. Delayed to mature you both. Delayed to soften the rough places. Delayed to teach you what matters and what doesn't. But delay is not permission to ignore, because there's a difference between not yet and I refuse. And right now, angels say, heaven is holding the door open, not forcing it, not pushing you through, just holding it open. Your soulmate is standing at a crossroads. One path leads to retreat, the other leads to revelation, and your response tips the scale. They are not asking for answers. They are asking for permission. Permission to be real. Permission to be honest. Permission to stop carrying everything alone. They've reached the limit of self-strength, and that is often when God steps in most clearly. So if I place this in your hands in a simple way, it is this. Your presence can lighten their weight, not by solving their life, not by fixing every fear, but by sharing the space, by acknowledging what's real, by letting them feel seen. Because being unseen is a quiet pain. It's not always, I don't feel loved. Sometimes it's, I don't feel recognized. Sometimes it's, I don't know if my love is safe there. Sometimes it's, I'm tired of guessing. And angels say your soulmate is tired of guessing. Now listen, dear child. This message is not meant to pressure you. It's meant to prepare you. It's meant to remind you that what you do in this window echoes longer than you realize. A simple message can shift timelines. A moment of courage can unlock months of prayer, not because you are the savior, but because your obedience becomes a doorway God can breathe through. And if you're wondering, what if I say the wrong thing? Angels say sincerity covers what perfection never could. A heart that is honest is safer than a heart that is polished. Even uncertainty spoken gently builds more trust than silence ever will. You do not need to impress. You do not need to perform. You only need to be real. If you show up now, angels say trust deepens, communication opens, healing accelerates. If you withdraw now, fear fills the gap, not forever, but long enough to complicate what could have flowed simply. That doesn't mean you're doomed if you hesitate. It means the window matters. So pause and feel your own spirit for a second. Who has God been placing on your heart lately? Who keeps returning to your mind in the quiet? Who feels tied to your inner world in a way you can't explain? Let that answer rise without forcing it. And if the answer is them, then let your next step be small and honest, because this is how heaven often works. Small beginnings, sacred outcomes, gentle movement, big shifts, truth spoken softly, walls coming down slowly. A simple, I see you changing everything. And yes, dear child, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is obedience in spite of it. Angels see your hesitation and still trust you. That alone tells you how important this moment is. You are not walking into this alone. You are not being abandoned to figure it out by yourself. Heaven is near, not because you are perfect, but because you are willing. So if your heart is stirring, don't harden it. If your spirit is nudging, don't bury it. If love is calling you toward presence, don't answer with disappearance. You don't have to rush ahead, and you don't have to shut down. Just take the next faithful step, because angels say your soulmate is leaning in spiritually. They are ready for truth, ready for connection, ready for movement, and they are waiting for confirmation. Not from signs in the sky, but from you. Not from loud proof, but from quiet consistency. Not from promises, but from presence. And if you can give anything today, give that. The simple, sacred sign that says, I am here. Honesty is giving direction right now. Not noise, not intensity, not urgency, but direction. I can feel how carefully you've been walking, how measured your steps have become, how much you are trying to protect your heart without closing it completely. Your soulmate is standing ready, not running toward you, not retreating away from you, just standing there, waiting. And angels say this waiting is not passive, it is not empty, it carries weight. Heaven does not ask people to wait without purpose. This pause is doing something unseen. It is revealing character, theirs and yours. Because divine connections don't just bring comfort, they bring growth. They reveal where we are honest and where we hide. I know you feel the urge to protect yourself. That instinct comes from experience, from moments when you gave too much and felt exposed, from times when silence felt safer than vulnerability. Angels say that instinct is human, but they gently warn you not to let self-protection quietly become self-sabotage. God does not call people into sacred connections to wound them. He calls them to mature them, and maturity does not always feel exciting. Sometimes it feels like tension. Sometimes it feels like responsibility. Sometimes it feels like standing still when every part of you wants to either rush forward or disappear. This moment you are in is part of that maturity. You may feel pressure rising, as if something important is at stake, and angels want you to hear this clearly. Pressure does not automatically mean danger. Often it means significance. It means something meaningful is being formed. Courage is required now, but not the loud kind. Not dramatic declarations, not promises about forever. Angels say it is the courage to show up gently, the courage to speak truth simply, the courage to acknowledge what already exists instead of pretending it doesn't. Your soulmate is not looking for reassurance about the future. They are not asking you to solve everything. They are not asking you to decide a lifetime in one conversation. What they need is reassurance about the present. The present tells the heart whether the future feels safe. Angels say the present moment speaks louder than plans ever could. Your presence, your honesty, your steadiness right now are answering questions they are too careful to ask out loud.